Hi everyone, welcome back to Kenny's Garage. This episode we're going to be putting on our timing chain cover, our harmonic balancer, move on to the cylinder head and see what we get done as far as lifters and push rods. Can't wait to see this thing run, we're getting so close. So stick with us and we'll finish the assembly here soon. Okay, we're going to use some Lucas Assembly lube to protect us at initial startup until we have plenty of oil pressure. Of course, we'll prime the system as well. Prime the oil pump before we even turn anything over. Crank sprocket. Always put a little bit of anti-seize on there. I don't know if you guys can see this extra hole down here. That is drilled through into the #1 cam journal. So under oil pressure, all the bearings will get lubricated and you'll get oil squirting out of here to lubricate things. Not to mention we'll put the oil slinger on down here, which will throw that oil around and keep your chain lubricated. My holes are not lined up. It's okay, I'm just going to put this on here like that so I can line them up. Stay there. Jeez. I need a special socket that goes over here. That'd be nice. That looks pretty close, getting those dots lined up. Just kind of eyeballing it right now. I just want to put this in here real quick to make sure my dots are lined up. Episode 3 we took this timing chain off and it was really loose. This one's got very little wiggle to it, which is nice. There we go. Dot, dot, center of the hole. If I were to move this one tooth either way, it'd be way too far off. I think we'll leave it right there. Put a little bit of Loctite on there. Using a serpentine type of tool you can use it to hold your water pump in place. Sometimes when you have to break a fan free, I use this on a 3-gen Hemi. That's what I used it for. I'm just going to use it to keep everything from turning. Okay, that's on there again. Okay, so timing chain is in. We're going to go ahead and get ready to put our timing chain cover harmonic balancer on. And I'll start by applying some Permatex High Tack. And this stuff is fun. So I was reading a book where the author said use this high tech on your timing chain cover gasket, and I was like, well, that's different, but let's try it anyway just to see. Gonna put a few of these in finger tight. And then I'll use the harmonic balancer to kind of center things up on your seal. You don't want this to be off egg shaped, or it'll rub that way on your balancer and you'll more likely to have leaks. It's worked for me before, so that's what we're gonna do. Now the studs go to 16 pounds. All the smaller ones go to 5. So I'm just putting a little bit of tension on them right now. You can torque those down here in a second. It's quite interesting how you have 4 different sizes on here. That's right, 4 different socket sizes on this baby. 7/16, a half, 9/16, and 5/8. Not enough threads. We're going to have to get a 1/2 inch fine thread, threaded shaft, and we can then put this on the right way. Let's extend the threads on a 1/2 inch fine thread bolt so that we can make our own harmonic balancer installer. This is a 4-inch long bolt. It should be long enough. Okay, let's take our special tool we made. I could not find a full-length threaded 1/2 inch fine in all thread or a cap screw, so I just bought one and extended the threads down. So we should be able to use this as a way to bottom our threads all the way into the crank snout. And then still be able to pull the harmonic balancer on tight. Let's give it a try. I want as much of this thread engaged as possible so we don't stand a chance of stripping anything. It's probably pretty good. I want to feel it bottom out if I can. Alright, let's try that. Alright, here we go. And it's pulling its way in nicely. Alright, so it's almost all the way down there. You can see where we have some more to go, but I'll probably do that as I'm torquing it to spec. It's looking good. Okay. So now we have our crank snout bolt and washer, and the book says 80 pounds lubricated. Okay, balancer's on. We're just putting on our belt drive on the outside. 3 5/16 threaded short cap screws here with 1/2-inch sockets. "20 foot-pounds. It's 20, 20, 20. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to take this rifle shot, actually a shotgun bore brush. I'm going to take it and put it down inside of our lifter bores and get those, just carefully push it down so we don't hit the camshaft. I just want to pull these down there, spin them a little bit, and make sure that we don't have anything in there. This block's been covered and uncovered a bunch of times in the last month or so. So just give them a quick little turn and pull them out, make sure everything clean. Then we'll lube them up and drop our lifters in. Lifter time. So I take this lifter extraction tool, grab it, make sure we have some assembly lube on the bottom, and that we open the lid first. There we go. And I usually do a little bit of the secret sauce, motor oil, around the body of it. I just drop it in, nice and easy. Find the lifter bore, push it down in, release, and that's how we do those. Next up is prepare the deck surface. I'm going to take a little bit of acetone, clean up the deck surface, probably use a little bit of grease and wax remover, maybe even some heat after that. So we'll get this all cleaned up. After we get this all cleaned up, what we'll do is we'll actually go through and rotate the crankshaft, wipe down the cylinder bores. Since this has been sitting for a couple weeks in this position, with even though we had it covered, I think it'd be a good idea just to wipe down the cylinder bores with the piston at bottom dead center and then re-lubricate them. We'll do that with a clean cotton towel. My favorite, the old white t-shirts, right? So I just want this nice and clean for my head gasket. Gasket's not marked with top or bottom, but you can tell by the two holes on the front. So now that we have the head gasket in place, it's time to lift this behemoth cylinder head on here. come left a little bit. Alright, these have to go in a little bit wet. We're going to put a little bit of oil in these threads here. And one of them, in the front's going to have Teflon on it because it goes into a cooling jacket. Okay, these seem to line up pretty well. I saw some inline 6 Jeeps that came with 7 of these down one side, the studded kind. I've seen some that came with 4. I had 2 sets of heads. I'm just going to run all 7 down there. It'll give me more options to bolt things to. Teflon. The number 11 in the bolt sequence needs Teflon tape. It's going through a water jacket. Okay, we have our head bolts started. We're going to go ahead and torque these in sequence. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Unlike some of the 4.0 videos you might have seen, these are all set to 105. The number 11 in the sequence with the Teflon is not any different at the initial torque. So we're going to do these in 3 steps, probably 55, somewhere around 80, and then 105. Here we go. Okay, let's set our push rods in place. Set them down in there. We can double check that they're set in the proper place on the lifter. Once we get them all in place, we'll just shine the flashlight down in there and make sure they're all fine. We'll come back and get the tops of these when we set our rocker arms in place. Let's give them a check. Good, looking good, 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 not good, 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 good. Everything is where it's supposed to be. Moving up to our rocker arms next. So before we put our rocker arms on, I want you to notice, first of all, I kept all these in order. I wasn't sure if I was going to be using the original push rods. I kept them in order, 1 through 6. And if you see the way these things mount, you actually have a shoulder on the bottom of this pivot right here. This is stationary. This will be stationary as it bolts into the head. And the rocker will pivot. And so if you're reusing these, and these look like they're in really good shape, it's a good system. The pivots actually rest in a bath of oil. This is very similar to a Mopar shaft mounted system as far as that, except for these have the hollow push rods. So you have this bath of oil that just sits in the base of the rocker whenever it's not running. And it's really good for it. When you start it up, it's already lubricated. So what we'll do is we will set these in place and you'll be able to see the shoulders here that rest on the mounts on the head, okay? And that's these right here. So we'll go ahead and put some lube on the tips of our push rods, on our valve stems. We'll make sure that a little smear of oil on here isn't a bad idea, but especially in that cup and the rocker arm, we want to make sure that those are lubed up with some engine assembly lube to start with. And I think it's a really good system, really good design. These rockers look great. They've been on here for I don't know how many thousands of miles, and I don't see any problems, any cracks, anything odd about them. So we're just going to keep using these. These are good. Okay, let's get started. I'm going to do the rest of these on the table, but I just want you guys to see that pivot point. Just get those started. Now I am doing these with the lifters at the base of the cam, right? So top dead center on the compression stroke, we know that neither valve is open, so it's okay to go ahead and install them. Okay, so I wanted to mention, we started installing our rocker arms, and I realized I had some bridge pivots that were bent. This is the actual bridge pivot that came off. This is one of the 6 that came off of my motor before. You can tell how it's bent. There's actually just a bend in these. When you look down on them directly, you can see. Here's an example of one that's not bent. And if you can put them side by side, you can see there's some issues there with the bottom one. I have an extra set of these off of a 1980 258. So I'm going to use these and clean everything up. You'll notice the pivots here, these are really, they don't look good. I mean, I'm sure they're fine, but when you go to put your new pivot bridge on top of there, you want it to seat firm and flush. So you have to clean these up. Take a lot of time cleaning these, and they'll end up looking like these. Okay, with all of our rockers installed, I bring each one to close to top dead center so that I know that the lifters are on a flat spot of the lobe and the rockers are ready to be torqued down. Book says 18, might say 19 in some of them. I'm just going to go 20. It's easy to read, and I trust my dial style at these lower torques more so than I do a click style, unless you have a smaller, like a 3/8 style. But yeah, I definitely take my time and watch the needle on here, and we'll just go back and forth to 10 to 15 and then to 20. And I'm looking straight down on top of it, and I can watch the needle. Done a lot of motors with these needle type torque wrenches, and I trust them, and the more I read about them, the more I realize how accurate they really are versus a spring in a tube. Now I do have a lot of the big ones that click, and they're good for a lot of other things, but in this case, 20. Just right. Okay, so the valve cover is temporarily in place. I'm using one of the Molle single piece oil pan gaskets. It seems like everything fits perfect on this. I've never used one of these before, but I'm looking forward to give it a try. The only thing I noticed with this pickup, though, with this new oil pickup, the factory oil drain plug is not going to fit in there. And that's this size right here, this style. I kind of like this style actually because you can't lose it. You gotta loosen it, drain it, tighten back up.
It almost works like an anchor. You shove it in through the hole, flop it down, tighten it down. Works really well. May have to go to a standard